Good evening and welcome to Atlantic Television Sports Extraordinary. My name is Ekpo Temple. On today's edition of the show, I'll take a look at the Nigeria Premier Basketball League Final 8 ongoing in the city of Port Harcourt. We shall also specially review the 2025 WTA Finals. So we'll delve deep into the matchups, the rivalries, and some form of best players who are going to compete alongside as they prepare to battle in Riyadh from November 1st to 8th, a few days from now. And then we'll wrap it up with club football in Europe with special focus on Liverpool Football Club and other trending stories from Serie A, La Liga Santander, and then the Bundesliga. These and many more will be yours shortly. Please don't go anywhere.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
on the point of order.
Honorable
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
All right, welcome back from that break. But just joining us is Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network. With me in the studio is Secondly Emmanuel. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me. Nice to be here this evening.
All right, we'll start with basketball this evening because in the last 3 days, it's been on in the city of Port Harcourt. It's a beehive of activity from basketball event at 59 Niger Street down to, one of the renowned environments where the AGM of the Nigeria Women Football League was staged. I can tell you that Port Harcourt is the hub in the last 1 week of activities centered around. But let's start with the big one because River Supers, alongside other teams, are really gearing up to pick a ticket who to represent Nigeria at next year's Basketball African League. And I can start with the one we saw yesterday, some of the beautiful results, even as I can also tell you that we have seen some results already this afternoon. Quarterfinal contest they defeated, lost to Hoops and Reed, 54-74. Lagos Legend defeated Boko City Chief 81-74. That was the top match of yesterday. The University Spartans, they call them Nine University, lost just 1 point separating them and Kano Pillars, 67-66. And then we saw Rivers Hoopers, as usual, play the last game of the day. They lost to defeated Nigerian Custom, in fine fashion. Today, we saw some games already. And I can tell you that the first game of the day saw Kano Pillars played against Kwara Falcons. Kano Pillars were able to get a 1-0 win now against, a 7 point difference between them and Kwara Falcons there. And then in the 1 p.m. time, we saw Nigerian Custom defeated Nile University. So back-to-back loss now for Nile University, 74-65, and we hope to bring you more results from the Hoops and Reeds game versus Lagos Legend. And then this evening, like I talked to you right now, that game is on now. Boko City Chief taking on Rivers Hoopers. Kensley, as you can see, it looks as though the only team that have not gotten a point so far, is Hoops and Reeds have gotten. Kano Pillars got yesterday. So arguably, you think that any team that have not gotten one at least massive point or a win now, it looks like that team might not be hopeful of a top 4 finish.
Yes, of course. If you haven't gotten a point, at the moment, this is match day 4. This is the day 4, of the competition. So if you haven't gotten a point, it means, you might not make it to the top 4. At the end of the day, of course. So I think it's a very dicey moment, dicey time, as it is. So teams like the likes of, I think Nigerian Custom. You talk about Kwara Falcons. I think they will be looking forward to see if they can maybe manage to get down, of course, to the round 4 for the competition. Because if at this point you've not really gotten, maximum points, it should be difficult for you to skate through. Seems like I think Nine University has been a bit, formidable. They won their game yesterday, but I think today was their first loss. Rivers Supers have been so impressive. You talk about teams like Lagos Legends, they've come up with very, very impressive performances so far in the competition. So I think it's really been an impressive one. We look forward to see what comes up today. I think Rivers Supers, they will be national against Boko City Chief. A win for them, of course, will actually put them in a very, very comfortable position against Boko City Chief tonight. So let's just say it goes so far, so good. It's been an impressive tournament down here in Port Harcourt.
Because City Chief, they played against Rivers United, Rivers Supers in the finals of the playoffs last season, where the ticket was picked by Rivers Supers. And this time around, they have lost to Lagos Legend. It looks like Lagos Legend is now the team on board after Rivers Supers. If they get to lose again against Rivers Supers today, because they lost to Lagos Legend, that means the chances is becoming very dim.
Yes, of course. That's why they want to come out against Rivers Supers in today's encounter. And I see it to be a very dicey one. This might not be business as usual, for Rivers Supers. Boko City Chief will want to come out, and try to see how they can, of course, challenge Rivers Supers, looking at the fact that, just like you mentioned, last time they were in the final against this Rivers Supers side. So they might possibly want to come out and make sure that, they tackle the game, and that a win for them will give them a lifeline, in the competition. So it will not be business as usual for Rivers Supers, and that's why Oga Odadu and his men should be able to come out and see how they can possibly, of course, continue their unbeaten, streak so far in the competition.
Well, keep our finger crossed, but Rivers Supers and Boko City Chiefs, they are slugging it out at the 59 Niger Street. They are in Port Harcourt. All right, away from that, let's talk the NBA. Because Boston Celtics yesterday displayed in magical form 20-point difference between them and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Detroit Pistons also had a very rosy time, 21-point difference between them and Orlando Magic. Very magical on the day, if you ask me. Brooklyn Nets also showed class against Atlanta Hawks, but that was not enough because the Hawks picked 5 points separating the both sides. Chicago Bulls were 126, 113 of Sacramento Kings. And then we also saw in Dallas, we saw the Mavericks, just 2 points separating them and Indiana Pacers. They did the needful there. In Denver, we saw Nuggets against the New Orleans Pelicans. 122 was against New Orleans, 88 points. So these are some of the massive points, games we hope to see. Today there will be games, so we hope to, in the early hours of tomorrow morning, we hope to bring you more when we come back tomorrow evening, because the NBA is on and it's getting heated. Teams picking up points from the Western and the Eastern Conference, and of course, more to report. But away from that, let's talk something big, because from November 1st to 8th of November, the WTA Finals comes live, and it marks the grand conclusion of an electrifying season. One that saw Arina Sabalenka won the US Open. Iga Swiatek Wimbledon crowned, and then Corey Coco Golf was crowned the French Open champion. Earlier in the year, Madison Keys won the Australian Open, and the year truly has been packed with drama, resilience, and brilliance across the WTA, and the ladies showing their class. First, Kinsley, when we talk about the WTA finals, we are headed to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. They hosted it last season, and they are in again for it this season. What makes it such a significant event in the women's calendar as the year comes to a close?
It's always, of course, a significant one. Just like you mentioned, it's always the last tournament, in the female category, talking about the WTA, finals, and it always comes up, and it has to do with, of course, I think the best, the very best, I think is either the top 8 or the top 10 players, that compete, of course, in this one. So it makes it more, it makes it very, very competitive. So talking about Saudi Arabia hosting this one, we've seen Saudi Arabia gradually making themselves, of course, the hub of sports, in the world. Last time, of course, they hosted it, and now they are also coming up, with that particular one. So for me, I think Saudi, they're doing something great, not just, of course, in tennis. You talk about football, you take a look at boxing, even looking forward, of course, to see if they can possibly, of course, host, some other sports. The 2030 World Cup, I think so. They also, if not the 2030, I think is it at 2020, 2030 something, they will be hosting the World Cup, as it stands. So you could see that Saudi Arabia are doing everything within their means to make sure that, when you talk about sports in the world, you always, of course, mention them. So I think for me, it's actually a good one. I will just see how the WTA, of course, will pan out. It's really going to be very competitive. Understand the likes of Iga Swiatek, Arina Sabalenka will really want to show their dominance. What about other top 10 players, the likes of Jessica Pegula, and the rest of them? It's another opportunity for them to show, their prowess, and see, of course, how they can get something at the end of the day.
You talk about Saudi as, showing their class when it comes to hosting, major tournaments. And in WTA finals like this, you look at the financial incentive, you look at the ranking points. Which do you think the players will be going for? Yes, they are the top players in the top 10, top 8 players in the top 10. But which should they be going for? You think for someone like Iga Swiatek, you'll be thinking about going for ranking points, or about winning it and getting the win money, for herself?
I think if you take a look at it, the priority will differ, at this point, because some of the players will want to go for the money, some will want to go for the points, just like you mentioned, Iga Swiatek, who has been, of course, trailing Arina Sabalenka so far this year. I think maybe she wants to see how to cover up, in terms of the disparity, in the points, as it stands. Talking about the money, huge amount of money, I think awaits the winner of this one, and I think a player like Arina Sabalenka will really want to go for the money. All of the players, all of them, of course, will want to go for the money. Who doesn't like money? But I think some will really want to go for the points. Some will really, of course, want to go, for the money at this point in time. So it just depends on where you are on the top 10 rankings, and of course, if you are maybe within the range of first to second, your priority might be for the points. But if you're within the range of, let's say, from 4th position down to 10, but your priority might just be, let me finish well so that I can make a lot of money, for myself. So I think the priority for the players heading down to this one would differ a bit.
Would differ a bit, certainly, and we'll get to see how far. But how important is building the momentum into a tournament like this after a very lengthy season? And for the first time too, the WTA and the ATP came out with strict sanction on players who does not meet up to a particular number of WTA or ATP tour.
Yes, I think for me, it's an issue that is still on ground, and it really have to be looked at. If you take a look at this season, there's a lot of injury worries. Players easily getting tired. And it really has to be looked at, because you can't be compiling tournaments in the name of making money at the expense of the players' health, and all of that. So it really calls for a huge worry, and the players are complaining that the tournaments are much. They have to reduce. Understand? Yes, you going for this tournament also brings money for the player, and all of that. But when you make it compulsory that you must play a certain number of tournaments in a year, I think it's not really good. You must allow the player, to choose the tournament he or she wants to play. At the end of the day, it's also detrimental to the player. The money, if you know that if you don't participate in this tournament, you stand a chance of missing a very huge amount of money. Your points probably will drop because other players will go play and then top their points at the end of the day. So for me, I think it shouldn't be compulsory. You allow the player to express their way. Oh, I want to play this tournament. I don't want to play. You must not force them. You see, some of the players, they stretch themselves, overstretch themselves in trying to make sure that, okay, they meet up with the demands, and all of that. And at the end of the day, it brings fatigue. It brings injury worries, of course, to these players. I think some of the players have to call it a quits, for the year. Players like, Emma Raducanu and the rest of them, they have to see, they have to drop, their racket. I think either in the Shanghai Masters or some of them actually dropped in the Paris Masters and say they're not going to play again throughout this year, just to give themselves rest and see how they can, bounce back strongly. So I think it's detrimental somehow to the health of the players, because when they overstretch themselves, it affects them and make them not to be formidable, especially sometimes in the major tournament, which are of course the Grand Slam. So I think the organizers should take a look at that and see how they can give the players that opportunity to decide on which of the tournaments to play, so that they can of course be fit and compete favorably.
8 players will be differentiated into 2 groups. We have the Steffi Graf group and also have the Serena Williams group. For the Steffi Graf group, being called the group of greed because it features the likes of Arina Sabalenka, world number 1, Cody Gauff, the winner of this year's French Open, Jessica Pegula, one player who has always been there, got to the finals of the US Open, lost to Arina Sabalenka. Jasmine Paolini, the Italian small lady that is doing so well. These are blends of raw tactical intelligence, and some of them are very consistent. And that brings me to the question. Let's start with Cody Gauff. She turned her season around when she won the French Open. She's had mixed results. This is also the champion that she's the defending champion of this particular tournament. She won it last year. So between herself and the others, how do you see her, moving? Because it's going to be a round-robin encounter in the group. You need to win at least 2 games to be sure of qualification, or you win all your games. About failure to win maximum point, anything can happen. So how do you see them panning out? Pegula, can she defend her title, having the likes of Arina Sabalenka, Paolini, and Jessica Pegula?
It's not going to be easy for Cody Gauff, in this one, because if you take a look at Cody Gauff, consistency, high level of consistency has been a problem. It's not that she's not consistent, but she's not consistent enough, to say it that way. Because you see her win a tournament today, she comes back, she been hosted up maybe in the round of 16, and that's how it goes. And sometimes you just see her just back up, she just come up and maybe win a tournament and goes back. No, that's not how you compete. If you want to be a legend, of course, in the game, if you want to be that player that people remember anytime, any day, in the next 10, 15 years to come, you have to be consistent. When she came up, everybody tagged her to be the next Serena Williams, but she has not really lived up to that expectation. She has not really tried to put herself, or maybe see how she can create that legacy of Serena Williams. And that's why I said it's going to be difficult for her, taking a look at how the season, of course, has panned out for her. She has not really maintained that high level of consistency. And I just hope that probably this might be another ball game for her, where maybe she might just come up with that surprise performance, and get the job done. She did it last year, and of course she has that ability, of course, to replicate that same form, if only, of course, she remain focused. Because playing with the likes of Arina Sabalenka, Jessica Pegula, it's going to be a very tough one. But I think, if she maintained that high level of consistency, definitely she can come up top in that group.
For your body language, Kinsley, it looks like you're already rooting for Arina Sabalenka and Cody Gauff to qualify from that group.
Yeah, definitely. If you take a look at it, this is a tournament that Arina Sabalenka will want to joke with. She has not
won it before.
Yeah, and that of course might be a thing of motivation for her. I've been good, I've been winning tournaments, so why can't I win the WTA finals if I'm the world number one? All right, so I think for me, it could be a thing of motivation for her to see that, of course, she get to the very end of this one and see how she can lay her hands, on the tournament, on the trophy.
All right, let's see how far. I can see the things that Arina Sabalenka, Koriko Golf will, get the ticket ahead of Jessica Pegula and Jasmine Paolini. Let's move on now to the Serena Williams group. They, obviously named after the greatest of all time herself, Serena Williams. This one is filled with some big hitters and powerful servers. Headlining group is second place Iga Swiatek, joined by Amanda Anisimova, one of the brightest, at the tour this year. Elena Rybakina and Madison Keys. I'm still wondering how Madison Keys got to stay this consistent to the top 8 after winning the the Australian Open in January, because I've not really heard about Madison Keys. And it looks like she just won that one, climbed the ranking, and continue to win. Maybe not win tournament, but like Jessica Pegula, she got to some small tournament, and that boosted her rankings to this point.
Yes, it's just for you to just remain consistent, all right? You ask yourself, Alexander Zverev, you still find him in the top 10, but what has he won? Nothing. He just find a way to maybe get down to quarterfinals, maybe sometimes semi-finals, and boost his points. And that's what I think happened to Madison Keys. She actually tried to maintain some level of consistency, even after winning, a trophy, this year for herself. She tried to put up that level of consistency, and that's why she, of course, she was able to make it down to the WTA, finals this time around. And you take a look at a player like Madison Keys. Of course, maybe you say you expected a whole lot from her, but one or two things or the other hasn't really, she has not really been able to push her game, down to the height of maybe to say Arina Sabalenka or Iga Swiatek at this point. But for that particular group, of course, all eyes will be on Iga Swiatek. What can she do this time around? Can she, take away the criticism that has been on her, looking at the fact that the season has not been spectacular, so much. Can she try to see how she can do the, unthinkable at this point in time, going all the way, to challenge the very best. Of course, when you talk about the best, Arina Sabalenka, maybe in getting this one, I think this should be the mentality of Iga Swiatek, heading down to this particular one, because ever since Arina Sabalenka took that world number 1 position, we've not really seen that sparkle, that spectacular performance we used to see from Iga Swiatek. But if she can possibly get this one and end the year in a very remarkable, I think it will be a good one, and then she can brace up and say she can bounce back strongly, come next year. So I'm really rooting for Iga Swiatek, and I hope that, of course, she will, of course, live up to expectation this time around.
Live up to expectation this time, and of course that's also what we are also clamoring for. We hope that she will live up to expectation. But let's talk about Iga Swiatek, like I talked about. A lot of persons or pundits have aligned her to being very. She thrived defensively when she plays against players who are hitting. So for her, she's like, she fights so hard, but she finds it difficult to cope when you also have the same player that plays like her. But when you look at the likes of Anisimova, yes, she got a double big goal against Anisimova in the Wimbledon final, remember? And then look at the likes of other stars. Madison Keys. Ordinarily on paper, it looks like she's going to have a smooth save. But these players in that group are all good on the hitting hard. That serves can be very detrimental. And when you look at the way she was also that in the China Open, that tells you that she needs to be at her very best if she must be seen in the other round of this WTA finals.
Yeah, like I said, that's what we need at this point in time from Iga Swiatek. She has to, bring out the best, in her this time around to see how she can end the year, in a remarkable fashion. You take a look at those players you mentioned, Anisimova, Madison Keys. I think no matter what, yes, we've seen massive improvement from them, but I think Iga Swiatek still stand a chance, among these players. When you take a look at, how far, of course, she's gone this year, though you might not really give her that pass mark, taking a look at her performance, but I think she still has what it takes, remaining as world number 2 shows that intent that, of course, she can still deliver. She just have to, of course, step up her performance. Right from where she dropped from world number 1, her performance dropped. And for me, I think this time around, it's just for her to brace up and say, of course, she can get the job done.
What about Anisimova? Her rise has been very meteoric, but what does she need to do mentally to handle the intensity of her first final appearance?
It's put up a winning mentality no matter who you come across. Is it Iga Swiatek we're talking about, Madison Keys, even the Arena Sabalenka? She has to come up with that winning mentality. Sometimes, some of these players, they have what it takes. That's why you see upset most of the time in the WTA. They have what it takes, to challenge these big names like Arena Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek to see. But when you have it in mind that, oh, I'm playing Arena Sabalenka, there's going to be that little bit of pressure, and all of that. And if you can't keep your cool on the court, you might lose it, at the end of the day. But when you're able to put up that high level of, winning mentality, no matter who you face, you're going to get the job done. I think you definitely will do it. I think that's the mentality the likes of Anisimova should be going in, should be going with, into the WTA final. If she does that, I tell you, definitely she will go far in this one.
She'll go far in this one. We'll keep our finger crossed on that particular one. But just to tell you that in the Serena Williams groups, Swiatek record reads a 12-7 against her rivals. She's even with Anisimova lead Rebekina 6-4 and has dominated Keys 5-2. But as we know, numbers truly, like you said, don't always tell the story. At this level, it's about who finds a groove under pressure. Which rivalry do you think will define this year's WTA final? Sabalenka, Cory Gauff, or Swiatek, Anisimova?
I think we should be looking at Sabalenka, Cory Gauff. That would be a big one. People want to, of course, set their eyes, on that particular one. I tell you,
Gauff defeated Arina Sabalenka in the French Open. And we saw what Iga Swiatek did to Anisimova in the Wimbledon. And then we also saw how she repaid that back in the US Open when she also that out in the quarterfinals. So
yeah, you can see that the rivalry is already on, and they want to, of course, see how to get over, each other this time around. So I think that's the game that everyone wants to look out for, to see who gets it, at the end of the day. Gauff, Iga Swiatek. I think maybe I'm seeing Iga Swiatek going through, in that particular encounter.
Well, we'll keep our finger crossed. So you have already talked about the psychological effect and advantage of all of this. So we'll get to see how all of this will materialize to, what will be. But we've been looking at the WTA finals, the statistics, the head-to-head count, and all that you need to know ahead of the WTA finals in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We are the top ladies, 8 top ladies in the WTA. We filed it out in 2 groups, Steffi Graf and Serena Williams, and we hope to bring you more from that side. Away from that now, let's go on a short break. When we come back, we'll talk football matters next on the show. This is Sports Extraordinary on Atlantic Television Network. All right, welcome back from that break. If you're just joining us, it's still Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television and Network, and it's time to talk football matters. Let's start from what transpired in Port Harcourt yesterday. One of the rescheduled match between Rivers United and Ikorodu City. It ended goalless yesterday. Currently, yes, we know that Rivers United are in the continent, and coping with continental activities and engagement can be very tasking. But when you draw at home to Ikorodu City, I mean, no surprise, they are in the top 10 as I speak with you right now, pending whatever happens. Rivers United do have, 3 games standing for them, but the result is such that, yes, tiredness and all of that, but then when you continue to draw at home and you cannot get your games, standing games right, it can be very, very challenging because of the way things are going in the Nigeria Premier Football League this season.
Yeah, it could be very, very challenging because the league is getting intense. We're now seeing other teams, trying to stay top. The likes of National United, who are top in the league, currently Ambia Warriors are also not left out, as it stands. So other teams are gradually coming up. The Ikorodu City we even talked about, as it stands. So Rivers United, if they really want to win the league this season, it means they must, take advantage of every game, especially, at home. We understand playing your trade in the continent and playing the MPFL could be very, very stressful. A lot, of course, happened this period, players injured, fatigue possibly setting in, of course, into the team due to many, games, to be played at the end of the day. So I think it's left for Finidi the judge now to see how to manage his team, manage his players, very well. So that, of course, he can pick points, at when due. Because if he doesn't, it means Rivers United might not, of course, this season once again compete for the title, as it stands. This is Finidi's second season in the side, and the expectation is, you've tried last season, yes, taking us back to the continent. We should be talking about winning the title this time around. So let's get the job done. So it means he must try and can to pick all 3 points, especially at home, and see how to manage, the away games.
But which is more priority now? Qualifying for, preparing and ensuring that you do so well in the CAF Champions League, the first of its kind since Lobby starts this some time ago in 2017, and then winning the league. Which will you prioritize as if you are to be part of the United setup?
Can they go far? Yes, they've tried to get to the group stage of the competition in the CAF Champions League. But you ask yourself, how far can they go, in the competition? Because the thing is, you're talking about priority. In terms of priority at this point, you talk about which one do you want to win?
Yeah.
Is it the CAF Champions League or the Nigerian Premier Football League? If you talk about the CAF Champions League, can they go far?
Qualifying from the group could be a massive achievement for them.
No, it's a massive achievement. It will be a massive achievement and also a lot of money.
True.
Follows up, as a start. Already, I think just qualifying for the group stage, they've bagged, I think, over ₦1 billion, already. So it's a huge one, at the end of the day. So the thing is, should they prioritize money? Because I don't think they're going to win the CAF Champions League. So for me, should they prioritize money, going far in the competition, bagging a lot of money, or maybe trying to see how they can focus in the Nigerian Premier Football League and see, of course, if they can win it at this point in time. For me, I think, it's very hard to decide at this point in time because if you look at it, I would say...
But a lot of people, that's why we have, score depth. If you know that you want to play a trade in the continent, that will be an opening so you can get some additional players, maybe who are experienced, who can play. I think that Goma did something like that some time ago when he brought in big names to play in the CAF Confederation Cup, and there are players who can play in. So it does depend on what Mikel Arteta is doing, shuffling your players in such a way that some can play in the lower competitions, while the big ones can. I'm thinking that if Finidi George does so, it will be fine for the team, and the fatigue will be lessened.
The question is, do they really have that squad depth, that can help them manage the pressure that comes, in the season? That's the thing. You talk about maybe trying to see how to shovel the players to play in the MPFL. You know how heated the MPFL is. You'll see National United at the top of the table. I didn't really see that coming, this season. So I think it's just left for Finidi at this point in time to see how to manage the players he has and see if he can get the job done, in the continent. Because for what I'm seeing already, I'm seeing Rivers United really prioritizing the CAF Champions League.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes, that's the body language on ground. I saw what they did at the Ghost like Pablo International Stadium against Black Bulls. Came out and were able to beat them 3-1 at home. So you could see that really means a whole lot for them. The sport commissioner was there and he was elated with that victory, for Rivers Super. So you could see that the attention now is more on the CAF Champions League. But the thing is, can they go far? Can they maybe get to the semi-final of the competition? The last time we saw them putting up a very impressive performance was in the CAF Confederation Cup, where I think they got their
go to the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals back to back. So was a very huge one. But can they even get to the quarterfinals? If they get to the quarterfinals,
the achievement,
in the CAF Champions League. So we'll just see what comes up. I think they talk about priority. I can't decide for them. The management have finished the judge. They should know what to do for the season.
Well, I'll keep our finger crossed on that one, and we'll get to talk more about Rivers United as time progresses. But for now, let's move now straight to Europe, because we saw some EFL Cup yesterday, where Arsenal at home defeated the Brighton and Hove Albions. Goals from Ethan Nwaneri and Bukayo Saka was all that Arteta's men needed to secure straight 8th win. And with that, now Arsenal becomes the first English team to play this number of games without conceding a single goal. This is massive for Mikel Arteta.
Incredible feats for Mikel Arteta. They've started very well so far this season, and you must commend Arteta for the kind of mentality he has actually brought, of course, into the team. The players are up there. They want to get a win, in every game. They don't want to relent. Knowing the backlash, the criticism, Arsenal is a trophyless team. They can't win a trophy, and all of that. They've been heavily criticized over the years. I think all of that criticism has really given them motivation to say no matter what comes up, we'll try and kind to see what we'll do. I think that's the mentality they're portraying at this point in time. So kudos to Arteta for building a team like this, and as well, take a look at the players who came in, the likes of Ibericheze, Noni Madueke, the guy who, of course, came from Brentford as well. A couple of players. I think Arsenal did a very good job in the last transfer window, and that has really yielded fruit. These players, I think Arteta was very, very careful in terms of getting these players within the Premier League, to see.
So adaptability becomes very easy.
Very, very easy. So for me, good job. I really like what they've done. So far, this month, they've not conceded. Solid defense. The midfield very, very intact. The attack, of course, very impressive. So Arsenal, the question is, should we take them serious, this season? Take a look at the way they started, because this is how sometimes it starts, seasons ago. Start very well, but can't finish the season very well. That's the thing. So let's just see what it is. And they're in different competition. In the Carabao Cup, Premier League, I think also in the FA Cup as well. We talk about them being in the UEFA Champions League. Which one should they prioritize? I don't really know, but I think so far so good. Arsenal, they've been in a very, very sensational form.
Sensational form. As we are, Newcastle United defeated Tottenham Hotspur 2-0. Moving on, other results of games that we saw, we also can tell you that Manchester City defeated Swansea City 3-1. City came from behind after Gankolo Franco opened that one. Jeremy Doko, Omar Mamouche, and Ryan Chaki did so well. Chelsea struggled against Wolves, but they did the job done. And then we talk about the big game yesterday between Crystal Palace and Liverpool. It was Liverpool who lost at Anfield. Another very painful night for Anfield faithfuls, because Liverpool struggled as they crashed out of the League One after a shocking 3-0 defeat to Crystal Palace. I mean, 3-0 defeat is flamboyant. That was flattering. I was thinking that even if they're going to lose that game, 1-0 would have been okay. But losing at Anfield repeatedly makes mockery of the whole thing Arne Slot is doing.
Very poor decision from Arne Slot yesterday. I didn't see them conceding 3 goals. In that encounter, why did you have to bench the big names? Salah, Isak, I think Ekitike
8 of the first 11 players were not part of it.
Why would
but he said it's the tradition of the club. I listened to the interview.
Against the Crystal Palace team that brought in, what's his name? Is it Issa? The top names. So why would you bench, when you actually saw how things have panned out, why don't you try to see how you can maybe bring in the big boys? Just like what Arteta did yesterday against Brighton. They ended the first half goalless. After the second half, it looks as if Brighton still wanted to pile up the pressure. He brought in Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka. They came into the game and were able to change things for the man. That's what I also expected. You considered 2 goals. I think it was in the first half of that game. And you were still, you brought in the academy players, and you expect them to beat a Crystal Palace team that even Arsenal struggled to
play.
Get, all 3 points over the weekend. So I think for me, somehow I was not okay with that decision at all. I was not really okay with that decision. And for me, it was the wrong way. They said it's the tradition of the team, and this is what it has, cost the team. All right, you've lastly lost 6 games out of 7 in all competition. It's very, very disappointing, as it stands. So for me, that decision yesterday to bring more of the academy players, I think was not a good one against the Crystal Palace side that are looking very, very hungry, this season. It's really been an unfortunate one. I don't know what will be of slots. Earlier today, I heard that the management has given him go ahead, to handle things as it stands. But I think the mentality in Liverpool at this point in time is really, really low. The players are not having that. I don't think they're really much motivated or having that winning mentality at this point. After spending over £400 million, and now you're struggling, at this point, it's very, very disappointing. I don't know what our slots, of course, will do going forward, but I think the state of things at Liverpool is very, very poor.
Very, very poor. And like I said, 400 million in the last transfer window, yet the team appears thin and inconsistent. So is it fair to say that the summer spending spree failed to address the right areas that was needed? Like you talked about Mikel Arteta that got players that he needed. Do you think that there was an error in the choice of players that Arne Slot got?
The thing is, there was no much error. Those players, they had a very impressive performance in their previous teams. Frimpong was bought for, I think, over £100 million. They bought these players with a very huge amount of money. That's to tell you that these players were actually doing well where they are. So coming down to the Premier League is a different ball game. All right, some of these players have not played in the Premier League before, so they find it difficult to adapt to the system of football down there in the Premier League. And some of them are injured. All right, just like I heard him, of course, talking in the post-match reaction, and all of that. So all of this, I tell you, that is the reason Liverpool are currently struggling, at the moment. That chemistry is not really there, as it stands. And Slot has not really, of course, brought in his original tactics, in the team. Last season, he was riding on what Klopp, of course, has done. All right, he was riding on that, and that was why he was able to win the Premier League last season. And now, with the injection of the new players, it's not as if what was built before has been scattered. So he has to build his own, as it stands. So that's why it's looking this way at this point in time. So he has to understand the players, know where these players, of course, could fit in, and be able to form a very good team going forward. If not, they will continue to struggle. I think this is when we will know truly if Slot is really that man he think, or the people have been saying he is. Just came into the Premier League and in first season, you won the Premier League. I was like, is it how it's going to, be? So we're going to see if he's really that man that, of course, everyone was, so many persons were talking about that. Of course, he is the real deal, of course, at Liverpool Football Club.
Well, we'll get to see how, like you said, and the first thing first, if he's in Nigeria now, having lost this number of games, they'll give him 2 games match ultimatum, to win. And the match ultimatum in this direction, he has to play against Aston Villa, has to play against Real Madrid in the Champions League, and play against Manchester City. So you ask yourself, which one will he win and which one will he not win?
I'm very. The thing is you look at the facts. Take a look at the teams Liverpool, are dropping. They're losing against Brentford, Crystal Palace. These are teams that you think at least
on a normal day, Liverpool should beat.
I'm very disappointed. I was so disappointed last week where They started very well against Brentford. All of a sudden, Brentford just came, scored them. I think they ended it, was it 3-2 or something? And now they were beating 3 goals to nil, against Crystal Palace. It's very disappointing. This is a team that started the season very well. I think they won about 5 games, in a row when the season started. And now they are just dropping points. It's very disappointing, very, very disappointing.
Very disappointing. Liverpool no longer part of the Carabao Cup because Arsenal have been drawn against Crystal Palace in a blockbuster Carabao Cup quarterfinals. And we also get to see other teams, line out in that order. So the draws we'll get to see in the weekend, 15th of December, all of that to come. Manchester City will be at home to take on Brentford, while Chelsea will travel to Cardiff. The defending champions, Newcastle United, will host Fulham at St. James Park. These fixtures, like I said, are scheduled for the week commencing December 15th, with Arsenal clash against Crystal Palace, promising fireworks. Let's move away from that now, and let's talk about other trending stories in club football, because we saw what played out yesterday. For if you're a lover of Eden Hazard, he has been, inducted into the Hall of Fame of the English Premier League, and is now part of the big names now, like Chelsea. Chelsea did the Drogba, John Terry, and all of that, to be part of that one. Yesterday we saw some games in the Serie A. AS Roma defeated Parma 2-1. Como defeated the Hellas Verona 3-1. Udinese continued their struggle, but yesterday they got a relief because they got a 3-1 win against Udinese. Juventus got a 3-1 win against Udinese. Genoa lost to Cremonese, and Inter defeated Fiorentina. I watched that game live. And then, of course, with that win now, it creates a path now for Spalletti, Luciano Spalletti, as the new manager of Juventus.
Yes, let us see what he will be able to do with the side. There's a lot to work on. The team, of course, they started a little bit well this season, but all of a sudden they dropped in terms of performance, and they have to relieve the manager. Let's just see what Spalletti, of course, will bring to the table. Spalletti is one man who truly understands the Italian Serie A. So I believe with a team like Juventus, a very top side in the league, I think, of course, he can be able to maybe bring something positive at the end of the season.
Positive at the end of the season. And if you look at his exploits in terms of achieving something, he won with Napoli before he left for a sabbatical, and coming back to join Juventus now. And the term of contract is they gave him 1 season, pending whatever happens in the Champions League. And a lot of people have been questioning that that clause. Is his long-term stay with the club dependent on Champions League? Is that a motive?
Maybe that's the target or objective of the team this season. If you're a manager with the side, it means you have to make an impact in the UEFA Champions League if you really want to continue with them. I think if you look at it, I don't think the management really have much confidence on the man, because why would they give him 1-year contract? I don't know what their priority is. Is it to build the side, or maybe they're just after winning trophies? And that's why they say, if you can't do it for us, it means we don't have any business with you now at this point in time. But let's just see, what comes up. He understands what he has signed, understand what he is to achieve with the side. So I think he's ready, for the job. I'm
very ready, if you ask me. And in the Ligue 1 was also games yesterday. La Havre defeated the Brest 1-0. Lorraine played a one job with Paris Saint-Germain, and other games. In the DFP poker, we saw what Bayern Munich are currently doing. It looks like, with Harry Kane, they are unstoppable.
Yeah, of course. Unstoppable, I tell you. Harry Kane banging the goals. And of course, someone asked a question, is this the season for the Ballon d'Or for the man? Maybe, because if he continue with this impressive performance, banging goals in every match day, if Bayern, of course, go find the UEFA Champions League, maybe getting down to the final, and him winning the domestic cup as well as the Premier, as well as the Bundesliga title, he stands a very good chance, of course, for the Ballon d'Or with this, form. I will see him so far. I tell you, the man has been prolific in front of goal, and we just hope that he continues with this level of performance.
This level of performance, I will keep our finger crossed on that one. And then lastly, before we wrap up conversation here, Real Madrid winger Vinicius Junior has publicly apologized to fans, teammates, and club officials after his heated reaction during Sunday's Clasico clash against Barca. since joining Real Madrid from Flamingos in 2018 for 38.7 million euros. The 25-year-old has scored 111 goals in 335 appearances, becoming one of the team's brightest stars. But in recent months, whispers around the Bernabeu have suggested a shift, with the club reportedly open to letting him leave for the right price. His apology this week, though sincere, came with a twist. It was directed to fans and not to his manager, Xabi Alonso.
I don't know what it is. I think if you look at the body language of Vinicius Jr., he has not been a happy man, for some time. If you take a look at it at some point, the shine has been taken away from him a bit. Everyone is now looking like the direction of Kylian Mbappe, as it stands. And if you take a look at that Clasico as well, he had a very good performance. He was not happy that he was actually being asked to substituted, of course, in that game. And I think that's the only area I think he has issue with Xabi Alonso. But I don't know. I think Xabi Alonso should try and see how to accommodate the man, have a good relationship, with him. Vinicius Jr. is a very good player. He's a game changer. All right. So I think he should try to have a good relationship with the coach, and of course, we look forward to see what Real Madrid will achieve this season.
Of course, we look forward, and we just also want to believe that the both sides will settle the differences. And with the way Madrid is going, no doubt what they can achieve. All right, we'll wrap up today's edition of the show as we bring to you our sports extraordinaire. Eden Hazard's recent induction into the Premier League Hall of Fame is a powerful reminder of a footballer who defined creativity, flair, and consistency during his time at Chelsea. Becoming the 26th inductee in the 25 class, Hazard joined legends like Lampard, Drogba, and Thierry, a fitting recognition of his impact. Across 7 seasons, he dazzled fans with 85 goals and 85 assists in 245 appearances, inspiring Chelsea to 2 Premier League titles and earning the Player of the Season award in 2014-2015. Beyond all the statistics, unfortunately, when he left, for Real Madrid, it was a different story altogether.
A different story altogether. I think injury was not his friend down there at Real Madrid. And Carlo Ancelotti as well was not there to tolerate any poor performance from any player. So that's why, of course, Eden Hazard didn't really have a good time at Real Madrid, and his career was not the same. His career really went down, and with the fact that there were a lot of fantastic players down there, Cristiano Ronaldo and the rest of them, he found it difficult, of course, to get a chance, to compete. So I think at the end of the day, after he left, he has to, of course, resign. He has to retire. At the end of the day. So it's one thing. Injury was not really good. It was not his friend, because if you take a look at it, poor performance. I think it was a whole lot of a huge setback for him heading down to Real Madrid. It was embarrassing.
It looks like a total hazard altogether, like one we saw at Chelsea.
Yes, it was really embarrassing. You saw him not playing, but you see him come out to come and celebrate with them when they win trophies. It was so embarrassing. I don't know how he was able to manage all of that. You could take a look at a big player that he was at Chelsea, and they're coming up and just looking like a laughing stock. Was so bad for him, but thank God he's still being recognized as a legend.
All right, and that's how far we can go. Many thanks to Kingsley for being part of the conversation, and of course eliciting some of those reactions here, punditry reaction. And we'll do this again tomorrow at same time, 6 to 7 p.m. every weekday. Ekpo Temple is my name. This is the best show you can ever think of on TV, the Atlantic Television Sports Extraordinary. Join us again tomorrow, but don't forget tomorrow morning 7 to 8 a.m. we'll be back for Sports Talk. Until then, stay locked here on Atlantic.